Will all of the Web2 giants try to create their version of the metaverse with Apple and Amazon and Google?
I think so. I mean, I think they might not call it the metaverse, but they're going to try to build things that are going to continue to capture the audiences because they're still thinking in terms of moats. And this is why I'm so excited about Web3, because if you think about Web3 from a data paradigm, it's a little bit like open source, right? It's all open. It's free for people to use, except it's free to people to use with an economic layer attached to it, which open source never had. Right? Like open source was the idea and knowledge layer, but there was no transactional layer that was able to put forward. In Web3, that openness is attached to a transactional layer. And what's exciting about this is that how do you compete with a network that can mushroom with infinite network effects? You know, we all spoke about interoperability much in the early days, and we all spoke about multi-chain. If you remember in the early days, many sort of layer ones and layer twos were dubbing themselves Ethereum killers, and we're going to be the main chain because they were thinking zero sum as well. That's generally gone. Everyone's like, we're all going to be a happy family. We're going to work together. We're going to go cross chain. We're going to sort of be able to sort of bridge assets and so on, because multiplied network effects. And when they all come together, they become a stronger unit, as we have seen, right? Like global trade is stronger together as opposed to separated, for instance. So that's basically where I think the central platforms are going to compete against. And I think it's getting to a point where no matter how large of a central player you are, you cannot possibly compete with those network effects that are also shared across. Because remember, it's not just sharing the cost of, sharing the benefit. It's also that the cost of the network is shared across every user. When you're paying gas on Ethereum or gas on Polygon or whatever it is that you do there, the end user is already willingly accepting the transaction fee around it for the benefits he's receiving in an open network. In a closed network, you absorb that cost. You have to run the Amazon bills. You have to run the entire infrastructure from scratch. You have to build the server infrastructure from scratch. Here, it's a public infrastructure for everyone to build on. It allows someone who, to have access to sort of maybe the strongest financial open public system in the world to innovate and experiment without having to have an experienced engineer, database people, and building an entire sort of database system worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It's already there for you to play and experiment on. So I think it's very hard to compete for them, but they will try.
We keep coming up with this concept that we're at a paradigm shift more than anything. And we can talk about the technology and the rights and the blockchain, but this is more of a paradigm shift. I think it was Sandeep when he was on from Polygon said, Brian, this is not about technology. This is a human paradigm shift.
It is.
And I just showed you my wall back here that said our mission is, to transform humanity into a fully empowered, conscious, and cooperative species. Yes. Now, I used to work in the city of London, and it was all about my bonus. And if you made money, it came out of my bonus. And I grew up in this world where if you lose, I win, right? And I was in that world for a long time. Funny, it didn't make me very happy. And so when I came here, I got a dose into this cooperative nature. And I remember that I started seeing it in this this new internet space where, Joe Rogan inspired me to do this podcast. And a year in, he invited me on his podcast. Yeah. And I thought, why would he invite me on his podcast when we talk about similar things? Aren't I competition? But it was this new thought of, no, we're actually all winning when we cooperate with each other and promote each other. And also, we're not really competing because we're all individuals bringing individual things in individual communities. So this notion that you're competing is actually a very egoic notion that's actually not really true. And so I had to resist my temptations in the beginning to do this closed garden and to try to keep it my own and be like, no, this is I used to call it peace and love in London Real. And so do the opposite of what you might have been taught. And this is the future. And I'm wondering if that's exactly what we're seeing here.
I think it's what we're seeing, to the earlier point, we think of blockchain as a political system because what it enables is a way in which you can represent a digital political system and exist in a certain way, whether it's libertarian, whether it's sort of capitalism, whatever. That's a way in which you can interact, and so the impact is human, right? It's not, the fact that it's not going to be faster than a centralized database is, a given. However, much like we have in the real world, if you have a centralized database, someone makes a central decision on the fate of your assets, and we see how that works in certain governments. If you give central control to the government to decide whatever they do, then maybe they can run life for you more orderly and make faster decisions, but also they don't build consensus. It's whatever they decide. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Whereas in a democratic system, it's messy. It takes time. You have to build consensus. And maybe to build that road or to build that house or that airport might take longer because you have to build consensus. But in the process, you go through an approach that basically protects the rights of the people around it, right? That's basically what blockchain enables in the digital space. And I think when people think about this more deeply, I think that's what they prefer, especially the younger generation. I wouldn't say that the older generation doesn't think this way. It's just that they've gone through MBA thinking and classic schooling in a manner where it's zero sum. So for them to unlearn this is a little harder. But I think many of the sort of younger generation, certainly my children, are actually thinking much more cooperatively. Right? If you have a choice to be cooperative rather than competitive, you generally want that. That's not to say that you shouldn't compete. Right? That's not to say that people can make more money than others. That's not the point. But the point is, how many people want to make money by hurting others? Right? That's the point, right? You actually want to make money and help others in the process of sort of growing that ecosystem together with you and benefiting from it. If you do well, wouldn't it be great if everyone does well? I think that's where people naturally would want to lean to. But in the current form, it almost feels like there can only be a winner. And I think venture capital, the old form of venture capital, has also reinforced that thinking, which is we're going to back the winner. It's winner takes all. And as a result, there has to be sort of losers. As opposed to there can be different levels of success, right? We can be happy that this guy did incredibly well, but the result of that success created, a whole generation of other people who have done well in that process as well. We think of everything on blockchain, whether it's the metaverse or whether it's a layer 1, layer 2, as an economic system. We like to measure things as a GDP instead of trying to measure it purely as a profit and loss. Because by doing so, we can then measure community success, and we can then say, if the GDP of that economy goes well, then everyone generally should benefit from the broad growth of it as a result of that, as opposed to just one entity winning and taking it all.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year is going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?